live.
We
We live. People
live.
messaging me, son of a, leave me alone. How's everybody doing? Haven't seen you since last week.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I interrupting something, Dylan? On your
trying
phone?
to figure out how to change the freaking lights. There we go.
Yeah, this new background, by the way, I'm loving it. Have you seen the back? Did you see the video? You probably didn't see
I
it.
saw the thumbnail of it.
Yeah.
It was advertised to me. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, no, loving the new background. I've still got to build it out. I'm putting a guitar on the wall and stuff like that. It's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be pretty. It's in this video, but if you're not, well, Dylan's not technically watching, but you'll be able to see the background. Monday's video also has it as well, because I'm like really into the idea of having two separate backgrounds, but then I realize when I have to like move my whole setup to face a different direction and how much of a pain in the ass it is. I'm wondering how often I'm going to be switching between the backgrounds. Not exactly sure yet, because I am, if anything, lazy. So we'll see how that goes. Mr. Awesome Sauce, classic Dylan, on his phone all the time. So busy week, Dylan. You were talking earlier that things just kind of went nuts near the end of the week for you. You kind of slid into Friday rough.
The weekend ended up being stupid because last Friday was crazy. So for those that might be newer and don't know, I work at a radio station. I am a producer at a radio station with a large Canadian, well, with Rogers Sports and Media. And so yeah, my job at this point, especially as a senior producer, entails some weird stuff. Like, we had some stuff on City News, one of our stations, scheduled at one point, that was just kind of gone awry in the logs. And then so I was the one that was sort of tasked with going and fixing, programming the station essentially, which is not in my job description anywhere. Nor in my paycheck, I might add.
I would definitely notice it there too.
Yeah. Right. This is great for me to say that while I'm doing this. No, like it's an interesting gig. But so I spent most of the weekend listening to the station, and there were like some segments for like one of our sort of pre-recorded shticks that had some really loose EOMs on them. The end marker that would trigger the next event in the playlist, basically. With that, pulling back the curtain a little here. They'll be set a little loose, and so some, like in this case, words were getting cut off at the end of segments. I'm like, okay, that sounds horrible. I can't let that go. I mean, there's dumb stuff that happens, but like, no, that's too gross. So I end up having to go in and edit like 24 segments for like an 8 hours of content worth on
that's
on like a Saturday.
It's so like it's so minute issues, right? You got to go in and move the EOM like half a second or something like that. Yeah.
Dude, there was year-end imaging scheduled around them for some reason, like packaged around the segments, and I'm like, what? Somebody got the wrong template into that one. Yikes.
SR375 says, I forgot to call the Mackie update Chungus. I'm so sorry.
Chungus.
They're even adopting that. They're even referencing it as Chungus as well.
That's amazing.
Kind of cool. But anyways, we've got the one thing that I really wanted to talk about here is the Rode Wireless Pro is on the way. Now, you heard about the Rode Wireless Pro being announced, right, Dylan?
Indeed, I did.
Yeah, kind of a big deal here. I've got them on the way. I haven't gotten them yet. I'm not hands-on with them. But the couple promises that they have. Do you use time coding when you're shooting video and audio at the same time?
I just use like manual sync, and because I'm not shooting multiple camera or multiple thing, like everything goes to the camera, even the audio. Like I'll use an external interface, but the audio will still be encoded at the camera.
Yeah.
So yeah, generally, unless I'm in a multi-camera setup, I don't, or in a setup where synchronization between multiple things concurrently is going to be a challenge without it. But rarely, I think that's
the pro aspect, right?
I use time coding in Premiere, like when I'm actually plotting out my footage and creating my my sequences. I time code, of course.
Yeah.
but not I'm not anal about making sure that all of my external equipment is synced on the same SMPTE time code because yeah, it's just not that critical. I can do that with if I need to do that, I can do that with a typical just old school slate.
I'm gonna be curious how many people actually use time coding when they're shooting. Like, I know there's a few YouTubers that use it.
Do you?
No, I've always. I'm actually one of the most archaic styles. I have a scratch mic on my camera, and
Yep.
it's a Rode Video Mic Go, and it sticks out over my my thing for reading scripts, and it picks up just the slightest amount of my speech, and then I go into Premiere Pro and or now into Final Cut Pro, and I just select them both and synchronize, and
Yeah.
voila, it works. Now that said, I do have to say it's not always perfect.
No.
So what'll happen is every once in a while, if you have a fault in the audio, and it does actually happen sometimes where the audio will just kind of screw up for about a half or quarter of a second, and then it throws all your audio off for the rest of it. Time coding, that doesn't happen. It'll just pick up right where it left off. So it'll continuously go throughout, so you won't have those issues. But I'm like, do I need to change over to? I'm starting to question whether or not that's something I should upgrade. But whether or not people use that, the other feature that makes this thing pro, and I do hate the term pro on stuff like this, but I'm starting to wonder here. 32-bit float. But hear me out though. I think this is the first product this year that actually justifies having 32-bit float on it. Because you got to remember, it saves the audio, it backs the audio up on the device in 32-bit float, meaning when you pull it off there, you can actually gain it down if somebody, like if you're doing an interview and somebody does peak, it's got that auto sensing gain and stuff like that. But I think this is the first product to hit the shelves that actually justifies 32-bit float this year, man. And it's what? We're September?
Yeah, right.
They started coming out like in February, I believe. It's kind of cool. I think it will be a toque or a koozie. What's a koozie?
I know a jacuzzi. That's the only koozie I know.
Like I got this once, but this actually came with the toque. I don't know. The koozies are those like the little hats that you can wear in the summer? I'm not sure. I keep getting hats from them. I've gotten like 3 of their hats.
And they're nice hats. I want a hat.
Nice. You can have the next one. Actually, I'll put a request in with Rode. They might actually be watching this, so I will put in a request. Dylan, you're getting a hat. I think I got you a toque already, didn't I?
No, man. No? I want one of those with the little gold, like little boop at the end. I want that toque. That's a nice toque.
SR375 next year, betting 32-bit float will be the standard. I don't think so.
Rode must do a lot of business in Siberia or something. Like I don't know.
Hey man, they get cold down there in southern Australia. It gets cold.
Oh, where are they based out of? Do you know? Like what city? I mean, you
Queensland.
did the video on
Queensland.
Oh, Queensland. Yeah,
I believe.
Queensland.
I did do a video on them. Rode main office.
Man, I would love talking to those
Sydney.
people on the phone. That would be awesome. That would be like the highlight of my week.
What?
Talking to somebody from like I don't know. I just don't get real life exposure to like any interesting accents. So anytime I don't know, for me, anytime is always a treat talking to someone in like a weird
travel some. My goal actually, and this is something I really want, and I'm pretty sure they'll let me do it. Love the people at Rode. Absolutely love the people. Every experience I've had dealing with Rode has been phenomenal. I want to do a tour of their facilities. I want to go over and I actually want to get a walkthrough and do like an almost a Linus-esque tour of their facilities. I think it would be cool. Specifically, these are one of the few companies that does, I don't know if there are any other companies that actually do fabrication on site. Like most companies have made in China or something, or it's assembled in one spot, but it's not manufactured. These guys manufacture everything on site.
Well, especially in their price tier. I mean, yeah, you can get that from Sennheiser, but you can pay for it.
Yeah.
You're like they're for what they're asking for, their value proposition is really good.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's like they make good stuff, and it's stuff like you're supporting like um, a company with good practices and that actually listens to feedback from their client
and
like
still following small business guidelines. Like they keep things in house. They're not doing the large company style of like outsourcing and stuff like that. They still do like that. There's something charming about that. Anyways, my goal would be to do a full walkthrough. I think it would be fascinating. I just got to get my ass to Australia. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen, but I'm going to see if I can make it work.
traveling is great, but it's up there in the old pocketbook, and so is everything else right now.
Unless Rode wants to send me a plane ticket. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you shoot a video at the Road Factory. That'd be awesome.
Guys, in exchange, I bet 500 people will watch this video. No, I think it would be better than that. But yeah, it would. I wonder how that video would do. Because I'm starting to question whether or not I know how well a video will do. I'm just saying, like I'm starting to question whether or not my knowledge of YouTube is absolute. But getting back to SR375, 32-bit float being standard next year would require a lot more of the industry to actually pick it up. Like, for example, DAWs. There's still a boatload of DAWs that struggle with 32-bit float or just don't even recognize it. Like, you can't even use 32-bit float. So I don't know. I don't. It's definitely doesn't need, like, you don't need 32-bit float. You just need to set your gain properly. But it would be, I think more people are going to try to exploit it. And I think a lot of 32-bit float to this point has been marketing more than anything else. I don't think there's any reason to have a 32-bit float interface outside of a professional studio. And even professional studios, I believe, still record in 24-bit. So
yeah, 24-bit is still pretty much the gold standard, in the same way that like the gold standard for most places it ends up being 96 kilohertz, at least for music recording, because a lot of plugins sample at 96 kilohertz is kind of their sweet spot. Like all virtual instruments for like Native Instruments Contact, for example, they're all 96 kilohertz. Every single sample of that is the format of Contact. So, and it like 96K ends up being sort of, now you can be stupid and you can go up to 384.
Yeah.
Which some Antelope converters let you do. But I'm like, why?
Oh, yeah, that's just stupid.
Like, I mean, yeah, you get a super crisp, accurate, pure high end that has like almost no aliasing in it at all. But, for
the 5 people on the earth that could tell.
Yeah, right.
SR375, good point. It's a marketing game. Same happened with PCs and bigger numbers. What's interesting about it, though, is people eat this stuff up. I got a comment on the video from the Rode PodMic USB. And somebody was super pissed that they hadn't made it 32-bit float. And they're like, it's using old tech. That's what the message said. And I hate to tell you, but 32-bit float is relatively new, but 24-bit is not old tech per se. It's industry standard. So 32-bit float on a USB mic is on a $199 USB mic is ridiculous. I don't think, like, if you want, and a lot of people at the same time think that this is something that'll help them while they're streaming. And it's almost, it takes too long to explain it, so it's not even worth it. But yeah, like, I think the reason 32-bit float isn't going to saturate the market is due to the fact that it's kind of useless for most people that are using it for the products that are pushing it. So, like, even the NT1 5th gen.
Dude, I would just like to point out there's something pretty major that just happened in the comments.
Oh, Bangs! Bangs sent us money.
I was just going to say, I feel like I should draw attention to this. Welcome back, Bangs.
Hey, Bangs. I think Bangs has been lurking and just not talking. Probably like working and lurking at the same time.
Yeah, I've done that. I've tuned into live streams just randomly on YouTube, like just at the office, and I'll just sit and listen in while I work.
Bang's pro feature would be a non-mirror finish on DAM's transmitter packs. Cost including charging case cables is on level with Go 2. Bagpipes for Dylan. I guess we got to get you bagpipes.
I'm down.
Your neighbors would hate you. I kind of agree on the non-mirror finish on the transmitter packs, but that also leaves them highly open to scuff marks and not being even readable after a month of actual professional use. That is the one issue, being clipped to belts and scraping up against shirts and stuff. Non-mirror finishes tend to not do as well with that kind of stuff. That said, when you're out in the sunlight and you're trying to see what the transmitter's saying and what your levels are at, is a gigantic pain in the ass. But you don't need to care about levels now because you got 32-bit float. You don't need no gain assist.
In the past, you can get like felt tape. I've just taped, and then I'll write what thing, and it works like a charm, honestly. Like, especially in a video, like you can't, if someone's wearing black pants, it just blends in with the pants. It's perfect.
What I usually do with this kind of stuff, and I actually still with my wireless Go, I don't remove the protective plastic that it comes with. The original, I just leave it on because it's translucent. You can see through it and it protects it. So, and that you don't see the same kind of shine off that, because it usually it clouds over after it starts getting a few little specks and stuff. And it actually does not reflect the same way as if you peel it off and it's bright and shiny. But I kind of agree. Like, if there was a better way of doing that, at least even for the display portion of the screen, it wouldn't look as pretty if the display portion of the screen was matte, but I still think it would get scratched all to hell. Thank you very much for the $5, Bangs. I appreciate that, brother. By the way, Bangs, you ain't got to throw money at us if you want us to read your comment. I promise you. If people still love their 16-bit CDs. I watched a video this week where somebody was like, the best thing you can do is when you're exporting at 16-bit, because that's the professional. That's professional. You export all of your music and all of your audio at 16-bit. And I'm like, oh. Do you export your stuff at 16-bit, Dylan?
I mean, it depends on what it is. Radio commercials, absolutely.
Well, okay. A nice brand new song you just finished.
Well, yeah, because I mean, here's the thing: 16-bit. The sessions are always 24-bit, and then I always generally have, with a song, I have, always a version of the quote final, because as anyone knows, when you're mixing a song professionally, you've got shitloads of versions of that mix. And so the final one ends up usually getting designated with like a final flag. And then in my case, I adopted one thing that a mixing engineer in Toronto taught me years ago, which is FQ DQ. And so the FQ is the full quality, which is in most cases for me ends up being 48K 24-bit.
Yeah.
Because I always do music generally at either 48 or 96. I weirdly did a song recently at 88.2. I don't know why I did that. It's just a pain in the ass for me now. Because I have to change. Because obviously I've got everything is rack here. So we should do a video, and I should just do a rack tour of just the stuff that's in my desk. I feel like that would be a fun
video actually. Do a studio tour. I'm still trying to get a hold of what's his name from SMG. He's slippery as all hell. He wants to talk. Glenn wants to chat with me. He's just so freaking busy. Like, he keeps getting back, and he's the type of guy that if he doesn't want to talk to you or he doesn't want to entertain your prospects, he's just going to tell you to F off right away.
Yeah, nope, not interested.
Yeah, he would be like, no, sorry, go away. Here's an interesting one. Next thing you know, they're going to market 64-bit float. No, I don't think 64-bit.
No. Next thing is 32-bit fixed.
You think so? Do you think they're going to actually get on the 32-bit fixed?
I honestly could see it, because 32-bit float. For 32-bit float is a proxy. It's something. It doesn't actually. With normal. Oh god. When we're talking about bit depth, and we've talked about this before on the channel, but
yeah.
How many bits an audio file has basically says how many different volume levels you can achieve.
Yes.
So if you have something that is 2-bit, for example, you can achieve 4 different volume levels between quiet and as loud as humanly possible. And so with 16-bit, you have less, you have a greater distance between each volume level than at 24-bit. And so the problem is 32-bit in terms of sample distance. 32-bit float is the same sample distance as 24-bit. You're not actually really increasing your dynamic range that much. 32-bit float ends up being more of a I don't want to clip.
Yeah, but that's exactly what it is.
It mathematically, it adds those extra bits so that on the converter side, you're not slamming into a massive ceiling. Like there's a lot of range before you get to that absolute. Like you can get plus full scale dB in 32-bit float. In 32-bit fixed, no, you're actually just encoding the signal with 8 more bits per sample, like from the start.
Yeah.
So, you would get less bit quantization, and therefore you wouldn't have to put as much dithering onto the waveform. And if you don't have to put as much dithering, the signal ends up being more pure because dithering is literally noise.
But to do that for something that's sub $500 is ridiculous.
So that's 32-bit float. 32-bit fixed is what I was just talking about.
That's what I'm saying though. To start rolling that out on products that are sub $500.
Yeah, it would be nuts.
It's like the amount of money for that would be
the precision because basically all converters end up being from an electronics standpoint is multimeters.
Yeah.
Right. Converters measure voltage and between in a certain scale and register that as a digital signal, as a digital sample, and they do that pulsing however many 44,100 times a second, and so the accuracy you would require from those monitoring components would be ridiculous for 32-bit fixed, which is, I think, why it's so ridiculously expensive as it is. I couldn't see a company releasing a 32-bit fixed interface for any, because those are really precise components, especially if it's a system that does, like you're measuring, I don't know, probably like it down in like the millionth of a volt.
Rodecaster Pro 3.
But imagine having a multimeter with the accuracy of like a millionth of a volt, and have to do that, like get you readings in real time, like 44,100 times a second. Like yikes.
Real King of Cricket. Sorry, we've been kind of going off on this 64-bit stuff.
Yep.
Wants to know, I create 90% of my videos in the room home studio. Should I go for Wireless Pro or should I upgrade to a good dynamic mic since I use a Blue Yeti right now and it's very explosive? If you've got the money for Wireless Pro and you do 90% of your stuff indoors, a shotgun mic is the way to go. Like if you can afford the Wireless Pro, which isn't going to be, like obviously it's not going to be brutally expensive because it's cheaper than a lot of the professional setups that you can get, but it's still going to be a decent chunk of change, and you can get a decent boom mic for probably around the same price, even the Rode NTG3. And you're going to get a better experience. You'll get a better sound quality from a boom mic. If those 10% of the times you're shooting outside of the studio, you desperately need like really good audio, a boom. You don't have a boom operator, if there's no way to get a boom on you with the camera on you at the same time, like if you're moving around and stuff like that, the Wireless Pro is a great option. However, the Wireless Go 2 is also, if you're only doing 10% of the time outside of the studio, you don't need the Wireless Pro. You probably don't just set your gain properly. You don't need the 32-bit float. You don't need all that. So you could get the Wireless Go 2. So it's kind of one of those, by the way, on the Wireless Go 2, they also have a safety channel. So this is one of the things about 32-bit float's great for this because it's actually going to ease your mind as a producer or as a performer using it. There's so many times where I have to like look down just to make sure, oh, okay, we're not peaking. But the Wireless Go 2 has a safety channel that records at neg 10 dB. So you'll never peak if you've got the safety channel on as well. So I think like if you can afford a boom mic, a shotgun mic like the NTG3, the NTG4 and NTG5 are also great mics. Is it the NTG? No, it's the NTG4 and the NTG4 Plus. Great boom mics as well. And you will get some fantastic audio out of them. So, were you going to add something, Dylan?
Well, I was just say, so with these that safety channel, for example, I guess that would have to record at neg 10 dB that would have to be, for that to be done properly, that would have to be an attenuation before the preamp, or at the preamp, because if you put the attenuation before the converter after the preamp, the problem with that is that you're not going to hit the digital ceiling because it's neg 10, but you're still going to burn the hell out of the preamp. And so whatever you're going to get may be distorted. It won't be digitally distorted, but there still is a likelihood. So it must be.
I've never pushed the envelope on it. I've never actually tried to. Yeah,
you should just sometimes just to see.
That's actually a good idea. You're welcome, Real King. Appreciate the question. SR375 says lusting over a TLM 102 to step up from the Blue Spark. That is a hell of a step up, going from the Blue Spark to the TLM 102. Yeah.
Oh man, it's official, dude. It's official. Speaking of which, Neumann conversations.
Oh.
I've got my I've gotten to the point. My U87 is officially been relegated to instrument duty. It is now like kind of permanently fixed.
What's your mic now?
You're doing okay when you can afford to not do vocals with a U87 that you own. It's like, no, it's on instruments from now. I got a better thing. Actually, I put the ISO mic back in the ISOVox because it's been at my office, and I remember thinking about how it's pretty much designed for that box. And I used it for some VO today, and it actually came out very well.
Wow.
It still needed to be tweaked and processed, and it was not 0 dB. I don't know why.
No.
I definitely, after giving it phantom power, I had to crank it. Well, let me see where the knob
really?
is
You
right
actually ended up having to crank it, eh?
Well, let's see. Hang on. And I was not doing quietly. Like these were louder scripts. The knob, it's at like 1130.
Okay. Oh, that's not. Yeah, that's average. With my Arturia Audiofuse, I had to put it on 0, and even had like at one point put the pad on and cranked up the gain. Like it was that loud. I was peaking. So yeah, that's impressive. So you're telling me the ISO mic has replaced your U87?
At least in that box. Because I mean, so here's what I noticed. So both mics need to be tuned. Right? Like this idea that you're gonna get a mic that's gonna sound perfect without doing anything to it, kind of a pipe dream, really. Everything needs to be processed.
This MKH 416 is pretty goddamn close, man.
Everything needs to be processed to some degree. And so, in the case of the ISO mic, it still needed to be tuned. I found in the context of the box, it was easier to tune than the U87. Both of them I could tune, and both of them I did tune to work in that box and to get rid of the boxiness of it, right?
Yeah.
I was able to make both of them work well, but the ISO mic was easier to tune. It was quicker. It was a quicker process. I remember with the U87, I think I spent probably an hour and a half sitting there tuning just playing the same phrase over and over and over again in Adobe and just making tiny little adjustments. Whereas with the ISO mic, I think I got where I needed to in 10 minutes.
Wow, eh? Yeah, well, I mean, there is a reason it's been Erland is no slouch for making microphones.
But I think, again, it has to do with the fact that mic was made to go in that box.
That's what I mean. So Erland's not a slouch. They didn't just like slap something together and go, here you go. But then they also, they tuned this like very specifically for this box.
And I do like the whole weird mount and the cute little pop filter. It's nice. All very cute.
There's a lot to like about that setup. I mean, I don't read in there for more than like a few minutes at a time, but outside
Yeah, I
of
was gonna
that,
say I was recording today, and I think today was the tamer of the days this week as far as Ottawa weather, but it was still humid as hell.
yeah.
And so voicing in there, especially with no AC on in here, and just the heat was probably 33, 34 degrees,
Oof.
and I'm just like dying of carbon dioxide poisoning.
Slowly, no, don't worry. When you pass out, your head drops from the box and you're fine.
Yeah, you're
You're
good.
okay.
Exactly.
That's a selling
Having your head in
feature.
a nitrogen chamber.
It's a selling feature.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So wow, that's fascinating. They should snip that. Isovox should snip that little piece out. I replaced my U87 with the ISO mic. That
Well,
would,
I mean, so the reality of it for me was I've got multiple things now to get good vocal recordings on. I don't necessarily need to use I mean, if I really need to, I can still pull it out of its little setup right now, and because I have it in a sort of a fixed MS arrangement
I
with
saw
the
that, yeah.
V13.
Oh, that's nice.
So the V13, and I might flip it right now because both of them are multi-pattern. So each one of them can play. All I have to do to change it is flip a couple switches and rotate them both like opposite directions. But so I've got the V13 on sides, and I've got the U87 on mid.
Oh man.
And so I feel like the U87's brighter. So if I want more width and I want more detail to the width, I'll probably flip it and make the U87 the sides with the figure 8.
Yeah.
And then so for those that don't know, mid side is probably, in my opinion, one of the best and most realistic stereo miking configurations for most instruments. There's a lot of people do XY. I still do XY a lot. In fact, I have a stand that's got a fixed XY pair on it right beside me. But it's not super realistic. XY is very wide. It's very especially if you're on headphones, it's very like, oh my God. But MS is a very realistic, full spread of the stereo landscape. I think the only time where I wouldn't use mid-side or MS would be like recording stereo sound effect like on the side of a highway. If I was recording a car going by, in that case, I'd probably use ORTF.
Yeah,
which is
you want the ORTF for that.
Yeah, one XY. But anyway, so with a mid-side, what you do is you have one mic, you have a condenser mic. In both cases, usually you would use a condenser mic, a large diaphragm like a U87 or a TLM 102 or NT2A, any of those, and NT1. And you have a one that's set up as cardioid, pointed right at whatever your sound source is. And then you have one on top of it, another condenser mic that's set at figure 8 that is positioned perpendicular to your sound source. So the side of the mic is pointed right at your sound source. So kind of 90 degrees from the mic that's underneath it. And you have to get them as close as possible together. And then in post, or using a analog mult, as we call them, or just a signal multiplier, you would duplicate the figure 8 signal. So now you've got 3 channels. You've got your cardioid mid mic, you've got your side mic, and then you've got your polarity inverted side mic. And you pan the polarity inverted and the other side mic hard left and hard right.
Yeah.
And then you can basically control the stereo width of the source by raising and lowering the sides. Because the sides mixed with the mid mic create your full stereo spread. It sounds so mathematically weird. It's like, yeah, but it's the same signal. And it's like, but one is from the back of and figure 8, one polarity is from the back of the mic and one is from the left and one is from the right. So that's the science behind it. I've done it with ribbon mics. At least a ribbon mic on the
pretty too.
Yeah, you
like
can get
when you just like start putting the faders up and it kind of fills in. It's
and
so nice.
I set up the U87 to record this little girl that I've been doing a lot of stuff with lately. This Resonator Lass. She's got a purty sound, and definitely something that I could benefit from a quality stereo recording. So that's why I pulled the U87 off vocal duty for a while.
I gotta say, I just love my viewers. I love the viewers that are willing to
sit and listen to me rant.
No. What I love about this is Dylan's going over some really cool things. Midside is one of those things that not enough people use, and it sounds so pretty. And you're going over the logistics of how to do that. You're showing the guitar off. And Dick Ginkowski says The new background is the world's kinkiest workbench. I fucking love my viewers.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice background, actually. When I first jumped on the YouTube page, I was like, oh, that's neat. That is a dark corner. I dig it.
You got to. So I'm going to be getting. If you watch the video, I actually didn't like the background in the video where I announced the background or I talked about it. But the video coming out about the Gigcaster 5, the GCS 5, I think it's coming Monday. Depends on whether or not I get the Wireless Pro and I get time to get that video out. Like I've got to work with the product, and if I have that out, that will usurp the Gigcaster 5 because the Rodecaster or the Rode Wireless Pro is a little more. That's a little more something for this audience. I don't know about a guitar interface that's going to really do well. But anyways, so the background in that video I really like because I played with the lighting a bit. I've still got some lighting. I'm going to add lighting to the actual pegboard that's behind me. It's a black metal pegboard that I've got there. I'm going to add some lights behind some of the stuff and kind of light it up a little bit nicer. And I'm also mounting guitars, at least one guitar to the wall. So it's
nice.
And then I'm going to light from behind the guitar. So it's going to look really pretty. But that's the finishing touches. While I'm doing this is the other thing, Dylan, is I'm building. So my 7-foot desk that I absolutely love is literally outgrowing its usefulness. I now have 2 pairs of monitors for 2 computers that I'm running. And when I say monitors, I mean speakers. So now I need to actually build a top shelf. But the problem is my desk is only 26 inches deep. So I can't get my monitor or my monitors on the desk at the same time. So I'm going to build like a Star Trek-esque top shelf that sits in behind the desk and attaches. It's going to have about a 1-inch overlap on top. And I'm going to mount my actual monitor. I'm going to take it off the wall and put it on that. And it's going to be like affixed to the wall and to the desk. It's going to look really cool. Then I'm going to be able to put both monitors on it. I'm going to be able to have my monitor set up on it and an above monitor with my ultra wide. It's going to look absolutely sick. The problem is I got to get the time to do it. And I think I'm going to have that time this week. But that's one of the reasons I kind of wanted to rush this background out, because that background's going to be shit for probably 2 weeks while I do that, because I'm building everything from scratch. So it should be fun. Computer I know, right? It gets confusing. I actually have a really good monitor mount because I've got a 43-inch monitor behind me at my main desk, which is glorious for doing editing. A 43-inch monitor, whether you're editing in Audition, you're editing in Logic, you're editing in anything. I use it with Logic. It's amazing. Just love it. Video editing specifically. But yeah, I've got a really nice wall mount for it. The problem so these are all the problems with my setup that I'm trying to rectify right now. The wall mount had to be on a stud, obviously. I wasn't going to trust a $1,500 monitor to be off a stud. So, but the stud isn't perfectly centered to where the monitor would be. So the monitor has to be pulled out to be center on the background for the videos. If I wasn't doing videos over there, I wouldn't care whether or not the monitor was perfectly centered. So the monitor actually overhangs the desk, which is another problem because then it kind of kills some of your zone on your desk that you can use. So doing this shelf will make sure that monitor's fully back up against the wall, and I'll feel like I kind of reclaim some of my space. Oh, Shrimp's in. How's you doing, Shrimp?
Shrimp.
Yeah, so the next couple weeks are going to be a lot of fun and a lot of work. And I still feel like I've got the hangover from vacation. Like that. When's the last time you went on vacation, Dylan? Do you ever go on vacation?
Remember, around the same time I went off for 2 weeks, beginning of August.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did go off. Sorry, August is a bit of a blur to me.
Yeah, I know. Same. Like I'm with you. Like it's getting back into the swing of it is a little tougher than usual for some reason.
I'm struggling this time. Like there's so much work on my plate and other aspects too. It's like it's hard to get that ball rolling and get back into the swing of week to week. I think I'm getting there though. I really want to ramp up for Christmas. I've got a lot of fun little things. I think I even got Tom Buck in on something, which is going to
Oh.
be kind of fun. I kind of want to do a little bit of cross-channel dialogue for the next, for at least closing in on Christmas. Have a little bit of fun with that. Maybe get Bark from Obscure Mics in on some stuff. And I want to do like a big collaboration video among a few channels. And I think it would be a lot of fun to kind of put that all together and
Yeah.
kind of introduce everybody to everybody else. I think that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, so I want to get all these backgrounds and this stuff done before November at least, so I can really start focusing on other things. And then at the same time, I also got a ton of reviews I've got to start. Like, I still have to do the review on those the 120s from Lawton Audio, which I really wanted to get in and do that at that church with that pipe organ.
Yeah.
Which I think we're still going to have to try to push. Maybe if we stop by there. What are you doing Sunday?
Yeah. Stop by for a little tea and crumpets.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we should definitely get on that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I think something like that. So there's a lot of the whole process of trying to make reviews a little bit more substantial than just static this, that, and there is going to be interesting. Trying to get motivated for that stuff. How's it going, Richard? I want you guys to do a mobster skit together. Together, Dylan is the big boss. What am I? Am I just the muscle? The idiot? No, I could probably play the idiot muscle.
Yeah, good fella.
Yeah,
He's a good fella.
traveling is kind of weird, Shrimp. It takes me a while to kind of get back, especially when it's a therapeutic travel where you're trying to like really shake some shit off.
Yeah.
This time around, I feel like it was really rough coming back and trying to get out of the doldrums of not doing anything to going full frickin' tilt towards.
Well, and that was me. Like for me, it's like it's been kind of a crap year. Up until recently, it's been a stressful, kind of shitty year. So for me, vacation was normally vacation. Like I don't mind poking around at some work stuff here and there. Like that's just that's part of what you do, unfortunately, in some cases. But and like this time, I was like, no. Like not at all. Like I'm not answering the phone. I'm not like it was almost in protest. you know?
No, and I
I'm
did
like,
the
I
same
got
thing.
vacation, I'm gonna freaking use it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. And it was beautiful. Like there was once you finally like let go into that, it's very freeing. It's very freeing.
First little bit, it's like, I don't know if this is a good idea, or I don't know if I prepped for this enough. And then after like a day, maybe you're just kind of like, yeah, this is actually kind of nice. Can I just do this permanently? Because this is cool. I like this.
Pretty sure I've got some hobbies I can do. SR375, did I go somewhere interesting? Dylan, you went to London, Ontario.
Yeah, it's not
For
interesting.
vacation.
But yes, I did go to London, Ontario, to visit my partner and not her, she lives with me, but to meet her family for the first time and just meet up with some old coworkers because I used to work at a radio station in London, so it was nice to see all those old friends again.
I went to London, England. And
Yeah, I was gonna say your travel stories are much more interesting.
Well, I don't know how interesting it was. We didn't do any. Like it was very
Well, you
touristy.
went to Scotland, London,
Yeah.
Germany, like you were all over the
just
place.
Scotland and London. We did the Isle of Skye in Scotland and stuff like that. Like we did a very touristy for the touristy stuff. Like London was very touristy. We did all the touristy shit. Then we went to Edinburgh and we did all the touristy shit there. And then go to Isle of Skye and it was shoes off, feet up, relax, look around. It was gorgeous. And then Manchester, we didn't do any tour. Well, how much touristy stuff is there in Manchester? We just had a really nice meal. That was a great part of the trip. And then came home. And yeah, it was very much shedding the anxiety. Too much comfort is a curse, Shrimp. But yeah, it was definitely a special. I've always wanted to go to Europe. I will never go back because of the price of things. The sterling pound, as they call it, is egregiously overvalued. No offense to any Brits in the crowd. I think Dylan's blossoming relationship is more interesting, but I really hate traveling.
Yeah, no, I'm that way. Like I'm not a touristy person. I definitely want to go to places. but I like I want to go to places and I want to have enough time to really have it like kind of relaxing and enjoyable and not have like a itinerary of 85 things that I feel compelled to do because I'm there. But I definitely do want to go to places. It's expensive. And there's other things that are more important right now that I have to spend money on. To get life on the rolls.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something like I definitely want to go to places, but just the actual act of traveling. I like when I've gotten somewhere. I just fucking
Yeah.
hate traveling.
I'm kind of the same ilk. I like standing in history. And that's one of the things that like I don't
Yes,
travel.
absolutely.
I don't like traveling for just to see stuff or doing the touristy stuff. I do the touristy stuff like I went to the Edinburgh Castle, but I didn't go to the Edinburgh Castle to read all the things and see all the cool exhibits. You're standing in a freaking castle. That is
Yeah.
cool. Like that's the reason I went. I just went at the wrong time during the Fringe Festival, which I'm sure is wonderful and amazing. I don't like being around that many people. I'm pretty sure I got COVID there too. But yeah, like in London, some of the history there.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff when we went to
I like
Peru.
that. I like that stuff. I
Yeah.
like being somewhere and sort of listening to the ghosts, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Being in
sort of-
Peru was like that, like seeing Machu Picchu and all that stuff. That was awesome. That's how I like to travel. I don't travel for people or for the fun of it. I do it just to kind of walk through history and see that stuff.
Yeah,
And
I
there's
like
a
that stuff.
lot of that shit in Europe. Spent a month career. Love traveling. Nice. No offense taken. Thanks, Beresford. I like to go places where the whole tourist thing sucks, and I dislike flying. Yeah, flying is garbage.
Yep.
I have an anxiety around it. Groups of more than 3 make me nonverbal. Yeah, me too. I actually despise, unless I'm at a concert, the only time. London and most of the UK in general, in my opinion, is a shithole. Even Cardiff, where I went to university, is a 30-minute walk between good and bad place. Ouch. London, you know what? London, for what it is from a traveler's perspective, was cool. It was cool to see. But it's also
would be.
like, it's also very, yeah, I mean, it's the hub of colonization. It's where it all started, man. Where we all began.
Yeah, London, and I think another place that would be on my to-do list would have been Rome.
Yeah,
I'd love to
Rome,
go to Rome.
Greece. We're gonna go to Vietnam in a couple years. We're also going to Spain and Morocco next year for my wife's 40th. So, like, I mean, talk about walking through history, right? Morocco, good God, birthplace of civilization there. Well, not technically, but it'll feel like it. But yeah, like, there's a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of really cool places to go. I performed live with my old metalcore band. It was just awesome. But then I got to talk to people and I just panic. Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
I
I have to say, so me and my partner saw freaking Smashing Pumpkins.
Nice.
And which was kind of a neat concert that I never thought I would be experiencing just through work. I mean, I'm sure even people that have never worked for a radio station can postulate that, yeah, there may be opportunities through work sometimes to get to go to things. It is one of the perks. There aren't a ton of perks
Not anymore,
to work
anyways.
in radio, but that is still one of them. Staff draws for tickets and stuff like that's still is very much a thing at most places. And so yeah, we hit up Smashing Pumpkins and it was a good show.
That's nice.
I was never a big Smashing Pumpkins fan or anything. I never really followed them. Obviously, I knew their big hits that were on the air.
Yeah.
But and they played those, which is great. So it was neat to see those performed live. But they did some cool stuff. They did this one version of "Once in a Lifetime" by, God, what was that band that did that song? Talking Heads.
Talking Heads. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Nice.
and it was a cruel, like, I don't know, grunge, kind of stoner grunge kind of version of it. I don't even know how to describe it, but I was actually like really vibing
Smashing
to it. I'm like,
Pumpkins.
this is cool.
Smashing Pumpkins style.
Yeah, very, very, very different. But yeah, but speaking of banter, like you were talking about, or somebody was talking about, doing gigs and having to talk to people. They seem to enjoy it. Like for a rock band, I'd say as far as like they they seem to enjoy the. I mean, just kind of casually, openly, like making fun of the fact that they have no idea how to banter. Like the one guy was just like, "Yeah, we're doing good. We're just kind of rocking and yeah, we like
We're
and
stoned.
buddy comes up like you didn't prep anything for this, you idiot.
Yeah.
And then they get into this whole conversation, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like this.
By the way, we have to hardline 6 o'clock, and it's
Yep.
5:53. So let's just get through a couple here. SR375 with the comment of the night. A live video stream with a ton of introverts. This is an audio live stream, so yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense. I'm a
Yep.
wild introvert. I do not like people, so it makes sense.
I like people. They're just, and so like the way I've always kind of introvert extrovert differentiated them is extroverts get energy out of social interactions, whereas introverts have their energy drained from
Yes.
social interactions.
And the
So
more
for me,
people,
yes, I
the more
find
drained.
people exhausted.
Yeah.
People are tiring.
Yep. I have actually, when we have parties here, because we have parties around Christmas and for birthdays and stuff like that, I actually find that I have to leave the party and go sit in the basement or in my own little space for half hour. Then I go back to the party. I actually have to recharge and go back, and I cycle through. One of the reasons I don't like to go into parties at other people's houses, because there's no way to like detach for a few minutes unless you're going to go hide in the washroom, which apparently is weird. I don't
And
know.
I think too, like I've kind of over the years I've become more of an ambivert because, yeah, generally, and I think a big part of it for me is it depends who I'm like. Like there are lots of social interactions, even work days that I come out and I'm pumped. I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, like I'm gonna go to a party. I'm gonna call someone. I'm like, I'm energized by it. But that's usually because I guess that day or in that moment we're dealing with people that I'm kind of on the level with.
Yeah.
And because I think the what is exhausting is dealing more with people that you got to wear a face, and I think extroverts that's almost fun. Whereas introverts, it's just like, I have to sort of squirrel away. I have to like exercise more emotional intelligence or just communicative intelligence and social intelligence than usual.
Right.
And so that inherently can just be exhausting. Social intelligence, I think that's the difference.
Beresford says wife's 40th. Don't think she'd appreciate her age being thrown out so casually. She doesn't care. She embraces it, man. Embraces it.
That's the only way to do it.
It helps that her husband's 7 years older than her, so
Yeah.
she can maintain her youth. I met her. This is the crazy thing. I met her when she was 24, which is just mind blowing. That's how long I've known my wife. That's insane. I was
And my girl is 12 days older than me, so I get to sort of just dangle that carrot.
Does she feel
over.
dirty being a cradle robber there?
Yeah, it's a funny conversation, but yeah, no, I get it. I definitely get it.
All right. I'm going to call it 20 years married. Nice. Good job. I'm going to call it. It's almost 6 o'clock. That way Dylan can get out of here. Have yourself a great week. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Have yourself a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.